Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim. And Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to our next lecture on text-based questions from your play Death of a Salesman. अजीज़ तलबा व तालिबात, हमने पहले दो हिस्से एक सवाल के अबाउट द आर्थर मिलर डिस्कस किए हैं। अब हम इससे जो टेक्स्ट बेस्ड हमारे क्रिटिकल क्वेश्चन हैं इम्तहानी नुक्ता नज़र से, उन पर नज़र दौड़ाएंगे। इस सिलसिले में पहला सवाल जो बेसिक क्वेश्चन है हमारा, जिसमें से 3-4 और सवाल जो हैं, ज़मीनी सवाल जो हैं वो निकलते हैं, छोटे भी और बड़े भी। स्टोरी लाइन एंड क्रिटिकल एप्रिसिएशन ऑफ डेथ ऑफ अ salesman. We will see in this portion of ours what the story of the drama we have to confront, what is the main stress of the story is, and how it proceeds ahead as a play. Let's have a look at our main portion of the question. Dear students, the story of this drama by Arthur Miller, Death of a Salesman, is based on the life story of a simple salesman, a common man of today. He lives in the modern world of America of today. Especially the story takes place in New York and Boston, in between these two cities. From the story starts from his remembering his travels as a salesman from this place to that place. Willy Lowman, the name he gives to his hero, his protagonist, is a simple salesman in a company. But the writer has not told us about his articles, what he sells. It is simply told that he is a salesman of something attached to a company, multinational company rather. He goes from door to door, to city, and visits different cities from his home in New York to far off places to sell these goods. Remains away for weeks and months and days rather from his home, loitering from this place to that place. All his life is spent in this kind of traveling as a salesman, and he is surely a married man, has got a wife and 2 sons who are now grown up. And this story that centers around this protagonist, Willy Lowman, is about not simply about his travels, but also about his dream of getting prominence in society, finding out his true place. That is the dream of success, the American dream of success. This is both material and social success as he dreams of. But unfortunately, as the story progresses from the beginning to the climax, he fails to achieve all his goals of success. He fails as a father. He is unable to bring up his children wholeheartedly, as he is not at home all the time. He is traveling from this place to that place in search of his bread and butter. Only this is what makes his home a shattered home from the very beginning. As a businessman, or rather a salesman, he is also very unsuccessful. Most of his trips are very great failures, and he is not considered a good salesman at all. In the eyes of his company for which he is working, he is a mere cog in the running machine of time. Hence, the story Some takes certain turns with arguments. He remembers his past time and again goes into reminiscences uh, and jumps out of them at once. And here is the complication that Miller has to deal with, that his hero is a confused personality. He presents his psychological uh, analysis here and there. Going through all his travels in his life, Willy Loman falls a prey to an immoral, illegitimate relations with a woman, although he is a married man. And unluckily, his eldest son, who comes to meet him in that hotel where he is residing for the time, uh, finds out that illegitimate relations with a woman. And from there on in, the relationship between father and son are deteriorated. And when he comes home uh, in the end of the story to ask his employer, his company, to give him a job permanently in the city where his home is, he fails to attract not only his family but also his employer, who just fires him at once because he is now a useless person for the company. At the end of the story, after failing in life, going through different difficulties, troubles, issues, both mental and material, he decides to commit suicide so that his family might get the insurance money in the end to be able to cope with the material needs of the day. He commits suicide, leaves this world, and leaves his family in the hands of much more troubles than he thinks they can be able to grapple with after his death. This is the storyline, and a very simple storyline. Uh, the certain questions are related to the fabrication of this story, formulation of this story, which are related to our main concern here, have been answered in this discussion of ours, which we will start now. अज़ीज़ तलबा और तालिबात, कहानी मुख्तसर तौर पर मैंने आपके सामने रख दी है। बेटे, ये एक सेल्समैन की ज़िंदगी की दास्तान है जो एक नाकाम सेल्समैन है। हफ्तों, दिनों, महीनों घर से बाहर रहता है, शादीशुदा है, 2 बच्चे हैं। अक्सर जो है वो दूसरे शहरों की विज़िट पर जो है वो वीकली बाहर निकलता है, दूसरे शहरों की तरफ जाता है। ये नहीं बताया गया है कि वो किस चीज़ का सेल्समैन है, बस सेल्समैन है। तो मुख्तलिफ वाक़यात में उसकी ज़िंदगी में कोई वाक़या ही नहीं है, असल में वो एक नाकाम सेल्समैन है। इस दौरान फ्रस्ट्रेशन में इलिजिटिमेट रिलेशंस एक औरत से कायम होते हैं उसके, जिसको बदकिस्मती से उसका बड़ा बेटा जो डिस्कवर करता है, और यहाँ से उसकी वो जो साइकोलॉजिकल डाउनफॉल है वो शुरू होता है। ही फेसेस हिमसेल्फ इन द मिरर। तो बेटे, ये कहानी है, इसके जो मुतल्लिका पॉइंट्स हैं वो हम धीरे धीरे अब यहाँ जो है वो डिस्कस करेंगे। तो कहाँ इसके सवाल के आखिर पर जो है वो हम उसको, इसकी जो क्रिटिकल चीज़ें हैं जिनका हमें इम्तहान में सामना होगा वो भी इंशाल्लाह डिस्कस करेंगे। तो आइए इसकी इंट्रोडक्शन से आगाज़ करते हैं। डेथ ऑफ अ सेल्समैन टेक्स प्लेस इन न्यूयॉर्क एंड बोस्टन। द एक्शन बिगन्स इन द होम ऑफ विली लोमैन। बाज़ बेटे ये कई क्रिटिक्स ने इसको जानबूझकर स्पेल किया है LOW से, ताकि जो है वो इसको, क्योंकि वो कॉमन मैन है तो इसलिए असल स्पेलिंग जो ड्रामे में है वो लो मैन ये हैं। एन एजिंग सेल्समैन हु हैज़ जस्ट रिटर्न फ्रॉम रोड ट्रिप। ये एक्शन का आगाज़ जो है, यानी ड्रामे का आगाज़ जो है वो घर से, बिल्ली के घर से होता है, जहाँ ये अपनी बीवी से गुफ्तगू में मसरूफ़ है। ये सारा ड्रामा आपको पता है, इट इज़ एक्शनलेस ड्रामा एंड प्ले where only dialogue takes place, and through dialogue the author is able to convey the sense of action. Willy is having difficulty remembering events. एज भी ज़्यादा हो गई है तो याददाश्त पर भी असर पड़ा है, एज वेल एज डिस्टिंग्विशिंग द प्रेजेंट फ्रॉम हिज मेमोरीज ऑफ द पास्ट। ये मिक्स अप करता चला जाता है प्रेजेंट को पास्ट के साथ और फ्यूचर के साथ। His wife Linda suggests that he should request a job in New York rather than travel each week. Then Linda and Willy argue about their elder son Biff. ये इनका बड़ा बेटा है, दूसरे से भी हम आगे जाकर वाकफ होंगे। बिफ एंड हिज ब्रदर हैप्पी, ये दो भाई हैं, दोनों इनके बेटे हैं। बिफ बड़ा है, हैप्पी छोटा है। ओवर हियर विली टॉकिंग टू हिमसेल्फ, ये खुद कलामी का भी जो है वो शिकार है, तन्हाई में बैठा अपने आप से बातें करता रहता है। बिफ लर्न्स दैट विली इज यूजुअली टॉकिंग टू हिमसेल्फ, टॉकिंग टू हिम ड्यूरिंग दीज प्राइवेट रेवरीज, ये जो उसकी यादें हैं उनमें अक्सर वो अपने बड़े बेटे से बातें करता है। बिफ एंड हैप्पी डिस्कस women and their future. Both are dissatisfied with their jobs. Biff is discontent working for someone else, and Happy can't be promoted until the merchandise manager dies. They contemplate buying a ranch and working together. दोनों भाई जो हैं ये दोनों आवारा किस्म के बच्चे हैं, क्योंकि इनकी सही तरबियत बाप नहीं कर सका है। बीइंग अवे फ्रॉम होम ऑल द टाइम, माँ के काबू नहीं आए हैं। तो वैसे भी मॉडर्न अमेरिकन वर्ल्ड में ये बच्चे जब हाथ से निकल जाते हैं, अच्छी तरबियत ना की गई हो, उनको कोई फ्यूचर का लाहा अमल ना दिया गया हो, जो कि ये नाकाम रहा है। ना सिर्फ अपने लिए कोई फ्यूचर नहीं बना सका, बच्चों के लिए भी कोई फ्यूचर लाहा अमल जो वो तरतीब नहीं दे सका। तो बीइंग अनसक्सेसफुल सेल्समैन, दीज टू चिल्ड्रन आर डिससेटिस्फाइड विद देयर लाइफ एट प्रेजेंट इन देयर होम, और ये इंडिपेंडेंट सोच रखते हैं, अपने अपने मुख्तलिफ जॉब्स कर रहे हैं। गोया ये जो है अब दोनों मिलकर बैठते हैं भाई और फैसला करते हैं कि चलो देहाती इलाके में किसी में कोई जो है वो कोई बाड़ा वगैरह ख़रीदते हैं जानवरों का, और वहाँ जो है इकट्ठे मिलकर जो है वो जानवर बन के रहेंगे, मतलब कोई जानवरों से जो है वो कारोबार जानवरों वगैरह का करेंगे किसी रैंच में। डियर स्टूडेंट्स, the next thing that strikes us as readers of this drama are the memories of the past, based on the memories, reveries, and reminiscences of the protagonist. At this point, when both these boys are talking to each other, Biff and Happy, Willy relives several scenes from his past, and it is a recurrent type of thing इन द ड्रामा कि बिल्ली जो है बेटे वो बार बार जो है वो ये माजी में खो जाता है, माजी के सीन इसके आंखों के सामने घूमने लगते हैं। इंक्लूडिंग द टाइम वैन ड्यूरिंग हाई स्कूल बिफ admits to stealing a football and promises to throw a pass for Willy during the game. Willy also remembers his old dream of the boys revisiting him in Boston during a road trip. Finally, in his reverie, he relives the time that Bernard, son of the next door neighbor Charlie, informs Willy that Biff is failing math and will not graduate unless his scores improve. In this last scene, Willy listens but dismisses the important news because Biff is well liked and Bernard is not. Willy remembers a conversation with Linda in which he inflates his earnings but is then forced to admit he exaggerated when Linda calculates his commission. Willy recalls complaining about his appearance and remembers Linda assuring him that he is attractive. At this point, Willy's memories begin to blend together. While he is reliving his conversation with Linda, he begins to remember his conversation with a woman with whom he had an affair earlier. He is unable to separate memories of Linda from the woman. तो ये गुफ्तगू है बेटे, इसकी यादें हैं जो इस कहानी का खासा हैं। अगर आप यूँ कहें, द होल प्ले certainly cumulates around these reveries and memories of the hero, of the protagonist we are facing. अपनी बीवी को धोखा देने के लिए कहता है कि मेरी तनख्वाह बढ़ गई है, लेकिन वो जब उसके कमीशन को कैलकुलेट करके उसे बताती है तो उसे पता चलता है कि नहीं, ये तो एग्जैजुरेशन है। तो इस तरह की बहुत सी चीज़ें जो हैं वो आपको यहाँ जो है वो देखने को मिलती हैं जब आप इसकी स्टोरी लाइन में से गो थ्रू होते हैं। This is very interesting that this play consists of only an action of 2 days. सिर्फ 24-48 घंटों के एक्शन पर मबनी ये ड्रामा है जिसमें उसकी यादों को एक्सपेंड करके उसकी पूरी लाइफ हिस्ट्री जो वो बताई गई है। तो ये इस वक्त घर पर है, अपने ट्रिप से, सेल्समैनशिप के ट्रिप से वापस लौटा है, और ये मेमोरीज़ ऑफ द पास्ट जो हैं उनको ये प्रेजेंट और फ्यूचर के साथ अमलगम करता चला जाता है, मिक्स करता है, रीमिक्स करता है, और कुछ पता नहीं चलता कि वेदर ही इज़ थिंकिंग अबाउट हिज पास्ट और इज़ ही लिविंग इन द प्रेजेंट वर्ल्ड। तो ये रीडर के लिए भी ये कन्फ्यूजन जो है वो बनता है, समझने में भी दिक्कत पेश आती है। बहरहाल किसी न किसी हद तक फिर हमें यकदम झटका मिलता है आर्थर मिलर की तरफ से, तो हमें पता चलता है कि नहीं, ये कहानी प्रेजेंट की बात हो रही है। द प्ले कंटिन्यूज इन द प्रेजेंट with his neighbor Charlie coming over to play cards with him. However, Uncle Ben appears to Willy while he is playing cards with Charlie, and Willy relives an old conversation with Ben while simultaneously talking with Charlie. देखिए ये बेहक वक्त जो है ये इसका एक अंकल बेन है, वो आता है, तो ये वो माजी का किरदार है, तो चार्ली हाल का किरदार है, दोनों से को मिक्स करता चला जाता है। एज अ रिजल्ट विली बिकम्स confused by the two different discussions he is having, one in the present, one in the past, and he accuses Charlie of cheating in card playing. After Charlie leaves, Willie relives Ben's visit and asks Ben for advice because he feels insecure since he didn't really know his own father. Willie also remembers instructing Biff and Happy to steal some supplies from the construction site in order to remodel the porch so that he can impress Ben. बच्चों को खुद भी जो है इसने, देखें कैसा बाप है, उनकी तरबियत शुरू में ये की है कि जाओ भी चोरी करके लाओ चीज़ें। The play once again returns to the present, in which Biff and Happy talk with Linda about Willie and his present condition. Biff and Happy learn that Willie is on state commission and has been borrowing money from Charlie in order to pay bills of the house. Linda criticizes her sons for abandoning their father in order to pursue their own selfish desires, and she gives Biff's choice. Respect your father or do not come home. Biff decides to stay in New York, but he reminds Linda that Willie threw him out of the house. He also tells Linda that Willie is a fake. He is not a real father. It is at this point that Linda informs her sons that Willie is suicidal. उन्हें ये बताती है कि आपका बाप जो है ना वो कुछ खुदकुशी के मुहर्रकात उसमें पाए जाते हैं। तो अपने बच्चों को थोड़ा झिड़कती है, गुरकती है, जैसे माँ अमूमन क्या करती हैं हर कल्चर में, लेकिन बच्चे जो हैं वो दे आर डिस्गस्टेड विद देयर फादर and think that their father is a failure, fake. He is not a successful father in any way, not as a man, not as a living entity, not as a father, not as a family man, not as a husband, whatever. The character he chooses, he is a failure. जो भी किरदार हैं, रोल हैं उसके माशरे में, उन सब में वो एक नाकाम किरदार के तौर पर इन बच्चों की नज़रों में है। तो गोया बच्चे भी उसको जो है वो डिग्रेड करके जो वो समझते हैं कि ही इज़ अ यूजलेस फिगर इन द रनिंग मशीन ऑफ सोसाइटी। Dear students, another thing that strikes us as readers is the daydreaming of the hero. Whenever he is free, whenever he is there talking to himself, we find him daydreaming the dreams of success in life, the material success, the social dignity, the social status. But what he gets is nothing, ruin, destruction, death at last. Willie overhears his wife and sons talking, and he and Biff argue against each other. When Happy describes Biff's plan to open his own business, Willie directs Biff on what to do during his interview with Bill Oliver. Willie remembers Biff's football games. Before Linda and Willie go to bed, Linda questions Willie. She wants to know what Biff is holding against him, but Willie refuses to answer. देखें ना, औरत है ना, वो एहसास कर लेती है कि बाप बेटे के दरमियान कोई ऐसी चीज़ है जो उसका शौहर उसे छुपा रहा है और दोनों एक दूसरे से नफरत का इजहार क्यों कर रहे हैं। कोई बात ऐसी है लेकिन वो छुपाता है, जवाब नहीं देता। द नेक्स्ट मॉर्निंग विली prepares to visit his boss Howard to ask him for a job in New York. During the meeting, Howard informs Willy that there are no positions available in New York, the city area. Willy reminds Howard that he named him and he was a very successful salesman when he worked for Howard's father. Howard remains impassive and instead fires him. देखें, वो उसे याद दिलाता है कि भाई मैं आपकी कंपनी का पुराना मुलाजम हूँ और जब तुम छोटे थे, बच्चे थे, तो मैंने तुम्हारा जब पैदा हुए तो मैं उन अफराद में शामिल हूँ जिसने तुम्हारा नाम रखा था। तुम्हारे बाप से मेरे बड़े अच्छे ताल्लुकात थे, लेकिन बजाय इसके कि वो उसको क्रेडिट देता है कि तुम हमारे पुराने कारकुन हो, तो यही मटेरियलिज्म है, वो उसको नौकरी से निकाल देता है, फायर्स हिम। तो ये बजाय सक्सेस के ये अपने हाथों जो है वो इसने अपनी करियर को ख़त्म कर लिया है। जो भी थोड़ा बहुत ये इसे मिलता था कमीशन वगैरह सेल्समैनशिप में, वो भी जाता रहा। Upon being fired, Willy begins free falling into his memories of the past. अब इसे झटका लगता है दिमागी तौर पर, तो मुआशी झटके तो पहले ही बर्दाश्त कर रहा है, लिविंग ए वेरी पुअर लाइफ, सब स्टैंडर्ड लिविंग। तो अब क्या होता है कि ये माजी की यादों में फिर गुम हो जाता है। एक ही ये इसके पास सुलैस है, साल्वेशन, बस माजी की याद। और उनमें भी एक अच्छी याद आपको पता है सिर्फ एक ही है कि जब इसका बेटा जो है बड़ा वो फुटबॉल का खिलाड़ी था, तो बस उस ग्राउंड में जो उसने 2-4 कोई कामयाबियाँ हासिल की थी, वो यादें जो हैं वो इसके अच्छी यादें हैं। बाकी सारी यादें जो हैं वो इंतहाई बुरी हैं। Willy recalls Ben's visit once again. He remembers Ben offering him a job in Alaska. He accepts, but Linda intervenes and reminds him of Dave Singleman. Willy shifts from his memory of Ben to Biff's last football game. Willy's daydream ends. Then he arrives at Charlie's office again in the day. तो बेन ने इसे कुछ साल पहले जो है वो ऑफ़र की थी कि आओ मेरे साथ काम करो अलास्का में, और वो बहुत कामयाब बिजनेसमैन रहा है इसका भाई। लेकिन अब ये जो है ये चूँकि इसकी बीवी ने उस वक्त इसे मना किया, तो बस ये इधर ही लगा रहा और नाकामी का शिकार हुआ। तो डे ड्रीमिंग इज़ एट द टॉप ऑफ all his sufferings. He resorts to his past memories for a temporary relief from agony, pain, suffering, ruin, destruction, but his past also neglects him, effaces him, unable to find solace in the lap of the past memories. Dear students, then Willy remembers his past mistake, a blunder he commits while he was on a sales trip to another city, and especially away from his home. He was selling goods of his company in Boston, and there he was caught by his elder son, Biff, having an illegitimate affair with another woman. The father, the cheating father, the cheater, was exposed awfully by the son, and from there on in a rift between father and son continued till the end of his life. Bernard, the boy whom we talked earlier, the class fellow of Biff, is the son of Charlie. Bernard is a successful liar. He is waiting for Charlie in his office. Bernard is on his way to present a case before the Supreme Court. Bernard's success both pleases and upsets Willy Loman while he compares his son's failure to the success of this boy. Charlie gives Willy money for his insurance payment and offers him a job, an offer that Willy refuses again. Bernard is a friend of his as he lives in the neighborhood, his boy. तो चार्ली जो है वो उसका बाप जो है, जो अक्सर इसके साथ कार्ड प्लेइंग के लिए भी आता है, तो वो उसकी हेल्प करता है मॉनिटरीली भी और एक्चुअली भी। तो यहाँ एक कंपैरिजन जो है वो मिलर ने पेश किया है कि उसका बेटा जो ग्रेजुएशन नहीं कर सका, वो उसका क्लास फेलो जो है वो ना सिर्फ ग्रेजुएशन करता है बल्कि एक सक्सेसफुल लॉयर बन जाता है। और ये जो है वो एक नाकाम बाप के तौर पर अपने नाकाम बेटों के साथ जो है वो अपनी तबाहशुदा ज़िंदगी गुजारने पर मजबूर है। एट अ रेस्टोरेंट वेयर विली, बिफ एंड हैप्पी आर टू मीट, हैप्पी flirts with a young prostitute and Biff is upset because Oliver didn't remember him। देखिए ये अब देखिए प्यो पे पूत पिता पे घोड़ा, बहुता नहीं तो थोड़ा थोड़ा, ये लाइक फादर लाइक सन एज यू नो। बच्चे भी जो हैं वो बाप ही की पटड़ी पर हैं। तो वो हैप्पी जो है वो फ्लर्ट करता है एक प्रोस्टिट्यूट से रेस्टोरेंट में जहाँ इन तीनों ने मिलना है। देन बिफ realizes that he was never a salesman for Oliver. Instead, he was shipping clerk. Willy tells his sons that he has been fired. वहाँ गुफ्तगू में उनको बताता है। Biff attempts to explain what happened with Oliver. After seeing Oliver, Biff sneaked back into his office and stole Oliver's pen. वो चोरी की आदत बचपन में बच्चों को डाली हुई तो बड़े होकर भी वो इनकी नहीं जाती है। Willy relives the time when Biff finds out about Willy's affair। ये वही अफेयर है जिसके बारे में मैंने अभी आपको बताया। तो with the woman, Billy comes to Willy's hotel room in Boston to tell Willy what he will that he will not graduate until and unless Willy can convince his teacher, Mr. Birnbaum, to pass him. Willy recalls his own desperate attempts to hide the woman in the bathroom. When the woman comes out of the bathroom with Biff in the room, still present there, Willy's plan to conceal the affair is ruined, destroyed. Willy's final memories of Biff calling him a fake before walking out of the door. This is where he fails as a father. अमूमी तौर पर यही होता है ना कि बच्चे जो हैं वो अपने बाप को आइडियलाइज करते हैं करेक्टर के हिसाब से एक इंसान के तौर पर। तो वो जो सारी आइडियलाइजेशन ऑफ द फादर थी वो बिल्कुल धड़ाम से इमारत जो है वो गिर गई है और बेटा जो है वो उसके सामने आ गया है कि फादर इज़ ए चीटर। तो ये चीटिंग जो है वो इनके दरमियान अब एक दीवार हायल हो गई है और नफ़रत की दीवार आप इसे कह लें या जो भी कह लें। ये लैक ऑफ ट्रस्ट यहाँ से पहले भी कोई इतना अच्छा ट्रस्ट नहीं है, बच्चों की तरबियत अच्छी नहीं कर सका, वो घूमते फिरते हैं हमारा जैसे, उनकी पूरी तरह से सही परवरिश नहीं कर पाया ये। Then comes the last resort for Willy Loman, and that is the death, the ruin, the destruction. He decides to commit suicide to provide bread and butter for his family. इंश्योरेंस इसने करवाई हुई है तो इसका ख्याल ये है कि जब मैं मर जाऊंगा, सुसाइड कर लूँगा तो मेरे ख़ानदान को कुछ पैसे मिल जाएंगे ज़िंदा रहने के लिए। अभी तो इसके लिए उनके लिए ब्रेड एंड बटर ढूंढना जो है वो मुश्किल हुआ है। द प्ले कंटिन्यूज इन द प्रेजेंट व्हेन स्टैनले रीअपीयर्स एंड विली रियलाइजेस ही इज एक्चुअली स्टिल इन द रेस्टोरेंट। विली रिटर्न्स होम डेस्परेटली एंड बिगन्स बिल्डिंग and tendering the garden even though it is night time. Linda throws Happy and Biff out of the house. Ben appears to Willy while he is planting seeds. It is again a memory. He and Ben discuss his plan to commit suicide. Willy and Ben converse in the present, but they are talking about the future. Ben warns Willy that the insurance company might refuse to pay a settlement and Biff might never forgive him. Biff approaches Willy in the garden to tell him that he is leaving home for good. हमेशा के लिए घर से जाने के लिए, चूँकि माँ ने कहा कि दवा हो जाओ, दोनों निकल जाओ, तुम बाप की मदद नहीं कर रहे हो। Biff and Willy argue again for the last time and Biff confronts Willy with the rubber hose, पाइप है उसके हाथ में पानी देने वाला, जिससे ये विली बाद में जो वो खुदकुशी करता है अपने गले में लपेट के, saying he will not pity him if he commits suicide। कहता है कि आपके मरने पर मुझे तकलीफ नहीं होगी, मर जाओ अगर मरना है तो। According to Biff, the Lomans have never been truthful with one another or themselves. Biff believes that he and Willy are ordinary people who can easily be replaced, mere cogs in the running machine of time, you may say. Biff and Willy, however, reconcile at the end. Ben reappears to Willy and reminds him of the insurance policy. Willy drives away. The Lomans, Charlie and Bernard gather at Willy's grave in the last scene of the play. He had committed suicide at night, going outside and taking his own life with his own hands. This is now the end of the main story. Dear students, this failure of the salesman is the failure of American dream indeed. You may say that it is the failure of an individual struggling to survive and sustain his individuality, his dignity, trying to search out his identity rather as a human being in this modern world of today. Arthur Miller's play, Death of a Salesman, addresses loss of identity and a man's inability to accept change within himself and society. The play is a montage of memories, dreams, confrontations, and arguments, all of which make up the last 24 hours of Willy Loman's life on which the drama is based. ये आखिरी जो 24 घंटे उसकी ज़िंदगी के उन्हीं पर मुश्तमिल ये ड्रामा है. The play concludes with Willy's suicide and subsequent funeral in the end. Miller uses the Loman family, Willy, Linda, Biff, and Happy, a single soft family, to construct a self-perpetuating cycle of denial, contradictions, and order versus disorder. Willy had an affair over 15 years earlier than the real time within the play, and Miller focuses on the affair and its aftermath to reveal how individuals can be defined by a single event in their life and their subsequent attempts to disguise or eradicate the event from their life. For example, prior to discovering the affair, Willy's son Biff adored Willy, idealized him, believed all Willy's stories of success as a salesman, and even subscribed to Willy's philosophy that anything is possible as long as person is well liked in society. The realization that Willy is unfaithful to Linda forces Biff, his son, to re-evaluate Willy and Willy's perception of the world. Biff realizes that Willy has created a false image of himself for his family, society, and even for himself as well. This is what we call loss of identity, loss of recognition, loss of his person as a human being. He loses everything. He proves to be a complete failure as a man, as a father, as a husband. Arthur Miller highlights and focuses on the failure of American dream and the failure of man in today's living world, where he is caught up against his environment, the social setting. Willy is not an invincible father or a loyal husband or a fantastically successful salesman like he wants everyone to believe him. He is self centered, self conceited. He fails to appreciate his wife, and he can't acknowledge the fact that he is only marginally successful, not fully successful as a salesman, as a father, as a family man. Hence, Willy fantasizes about lost opportunities for wealth, fame, and notoriety. So, it would be incorrect to state that Miller solely criticizes Willy. Instead, Miller demonstrates how one individual can create a self perpetuating cycle that expands to include other individuals around him as well. This is certainly the case within the Lowman family. Until the end of the play, Willy effectively blocks the affair out of his memory and commits himself to a life of denial. He denies the truth that had happened 15 years ago. He can't remember what happened. So naturally, he doesn't understand why his relationship with Biff has changed. Willy wants Biff's affection and adoration as before. As a father, he wishes to be loved by his sons. But instead, the two constantly argue against each other. Willy vacillates, sometimes criticizing Biff's laziness and ineptitude, other times praising his physical abilities and ambitions of life. तो ये बेटे कंप्लीट फेलियर जो है वो उसको फोकस किया है आर्थर मिलर ने, और ये हम बार बार इसका जिक्र कर चुके हैं कि फेलियर not only as an individual but also as father, as husband, as a family man, head of the family. तो इसमें मुख्तलिफ जो हैं वो जहतें हैं इसकी नाकामी सिर्फ इस तक महदूद नहीं रही, इसकी नाकामी ने गोया बहुत से इसके गिर्द जो अफराद हैं उनको भी मुतासर किया है, इसकी फैमिली को अफेक्ट किया है, इसके बच्चों को तबाह कर दिया है. तो फेलियर ऑफ एन इंडिविजुअल is not limited to the failure of that individual only. It encompasses and covers many surrounding people attached to that individual. Dear students, this type of contradiction and cycle of denial and contradiction is not limited to Willy Loman, who is presented as an explorer in the storyline. Linda and Happy are also drawn into the cycle of denial and confrontation. Linda is aware of Willy's habit of constructing reality. However, she also recognizes that Willy may not be able to accept reality as shown through his numerous suicide attempts prior to the beginning of the play. As a result, Linda chooses to protect Willy's illusions by treating them as truth, even if she must ignore reality or alienate her children in doing so. Happy is also a product of Willy's philosophy. Like Willy, he manipulates the truth to create a more favorable reality for himself. और ख्वाबों की दुनिया में रहने वाले लोग हैं, हकीकत का सामना करने के लिए तैयार नहीं हैं. तो सबकी ये आदत बन गई है पूरी फैमिली में, बच्चे, बीवी, वो खुद भी. They are living in an unactual situation of their mentally created realm of dreams. Miller based Willy's character on his uncles. ये बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट है, इनको हम कहते हैं ऑटोबियोग्राफिकल टच उसने देने की कोशिश की है मिलर ने. Manny Newman and Lee Bomsam, who were salesmen also. Miller saw his uncles as independent explorers, charting new territories across America. It is noteworthy that Miller doesn't disclose what type of salesman Willy is. Rather than drawing the audience attention to what Willy sells, Miller chooses to focus on the fact that Willy is a salesman. As a result, Miller expands the import of Willy's situation. Willy is an explorer, conqueror of the New England territory, and a dreamer, and this allows the audience to connect with him because everyone has aspirations, dreams, and goals and ambitions. And this modern technique of expanding someone's limited career to a globalized type of idea encompassing the whole of the community is a major change in the concept of tragedy that Miller presents here. Dear students, going through different aspects of Willy Loman's protagonism, heroism in this very drama, now we come to conclude our discussion in a few words. Willy's despair results from his failure to achieve his American dream of success, and this is very apparent from the very onset of the story. At one point, Willy was a moderately successful salesman opening new territory in New England, and Biff and Happy viewed him as a model father in the beginning. Once Biff discovers the affair, however, he loses respect for Willy as well as his own motivation to succeed. He is frustrated also. His idealization is ruined. As Willy grows older, making sales is more difficult for him. So he attempts to draw on past success by reliving old memories of his life. Willy loses the ability to distinguish reality from fantasy, and this behavior alienates him from others, thereby diminishing his ability to survive in the present world of reality. As the play progresses, Willy's life becomes more disordered. dismantled, disorganized, ruined, and he is forced to withdraw almost completely to the past, where order exists because he can reconstruct events or relive old memories. Dear students, Willy's self deprecation, sense of failure, and overwhelming regret are almost universal emotions which we all participate in. Willy is left with no other alternative but to commit suicide, to go to death in his own hands. He made a mistake, a blunder, one that irrevocably changed his relationship with the people he loves most, his sons, his family. And when all of his attempts to eradicate his mistake fail, he makes one grand attempt to correct the mistake. Willie vehemently denies Biff's claim that they are both common, ordinary people, but ironically, it is the universality of the play that makes it so enduring. Biff's statement, I am a dime, a dozen, and so are you, is true, after all, in the end of the play. हम बेमानी लोग हैं, वो जो है कि हम अमेरिकन ड्रीम जो है वो इनका धड़ाम से नीचे आन गिरा है, और ये पूरी क्रिटिसिज्म ही मिलर की असल में इसी चीज़ पर है, क्योंकि इसने डिप्रेशन का दौर देखा हुआ है 1930s का, और वो ये 1930s का वो दौर है बेटे जब पहली जंग अजीम के बाद जो है अमेरिका सफर्ड फ्रॉम इकोनॉमिक क्राइसिस, अ ग्रेट डिप्रेशन ऑफ इकोनॉमी दैट इज़। और ये कहा जाता है, हेमिंगवे ने अपने नॉवेल्स में ये डिपिक्ट किया है, अर्नेस्ट हेमिंगवे द अमेरिकन नॉवल नगार, कि भाई पीपल वर फोर्स टू ईट क्रंचेस फ्रॉम गार्बेज, क्रंचेस ऑफ ब्रेड फ्रॉम गार्बेज। लोग इस हद तक जो थे मुआशी तौर पर इस डिप्रेशन के इरा में वो मुआशी बदहाली का शिकार हो गए थे कि कूड़े करकट के ढेरों से लोग रोटी के टुकड़े उठा उठा के खाने पर मजबूर हो गए थे। तो ये कोई उसके फ़ौरन बाद जो है यही मुल्क जो है देखें 1930s के थोड़ी देर बाद ही जो है 37-38 में दूसरी जंग अजीम में कूद पड़ा। अभी उस डिप्रेशन से बाहर नहीं निकले थे कि दूसरी जंग अजीम के हैवक्स ने आ लिया। तो इनको संभलते संभलते जो है ये 50-60 की दहाई जो है ये भी इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ की दहाई तो नहीं है, ये बिगनिंग ऑफ द अमेरिकन ड्रीम है, जिसमें लोग जो है वो नई जेहतें तलाश करते फिरते हैं, ज़िंदगी के अंदर जो है वो नए हवाले ढूंढ रहे हैं। बहरहाल ये अमेरिकन ड्रीम आज भी वैसे का वैसे है। दूसरी दुनिया के लोग जो हैं वो भी अमेरिका की तरफ देखते हैं कि शायद वहाँ जो है वो कोई इतना बड़ी कोई अचीवमेंट कर लेंगे, भागम भाग अमेरिका की तरफ जाते हैं, जैसे कि आजकल भी आपके सामने रवाज है। एवरीबडी विशेज़ टू गो टू अमेरिका टू गेट द ग्रीन कार्ड टू बी सक्सेसफुल materially, but unfortunately the fact remains that America is a big country where there is unemployment. In the individual is just an individual, only the stronger, the richer people have got hold of everything. वहाँ भी चंद एक वो जो अरबपति खरबपति लोग हैं उन्होंने मुल्क का सारा सरमाया मुट्ठी में बंद किया हुआ है। जो कॉमन पीपल हैं दे आर एज लिविंग एज common people just like Willy Loman, and this is the fact that disillusions us as readers, and Miller's aim was to bring to light this disillusionment. वो यही चाहता है आर्थर मिलर जो है अपनी इस सोशल रियलिज्म के तवसुत से कि हम जो हैं हमारी चशमकुशाई से जो है ना हमारी आंखें खुलें कि ये अमेरिकन ड्रीम जो है वो एक फेक ड्रीम है। दिस इज़ नॉट ट्रू. We must accept this reality that the modern society is crushing individuals, crushing human beings in the rush of life, in the rush of money. तो बेटे ये सवाल है हमारा आज का। इंशाल्लाह अगले सवाल में फिर हम इसके बाकी के एस्पेक्ट्स जो हैं वो नावल के सॉरी इस ड्रामे के कवर करने की कोशिश करेंगे। Dear students, thank you very much for participating in today's discussion. That was a bit prolonged discussion. Till the next session, it is Allah Hafiz and goodbye from my side. Thank you very much again.